My Schizophrenic Life, The True Story of Tracy Poe, Part 2 School Years. Chapter 6, Elementary School. 2 short blocks from my house on Caribbean Lane is Atkinson Elementary School, and it opened for its first year when I was in first grade. I would walk down the street and watch the workers finish building the school. I remember the pebbled cement columns in the front entrance the workers had covered with plastic the first time I went there to see them building it. I went to kindergarten at Kings Point Lutheran Church and made a best friend named Ben, who was half Japanese. His father had been a service member overseas and had married a Japanese national. I would go to his house that was 3 blocks away from my house and play. His mother would have a rice ceremony, and you had to eat all your rice before you could drink your tea, and I did not understand this and would protest. I just could not imagine having to eat with nothing to wash it down. I told my mother I was going to marry a Japanese woman when I was older. Like I said, I started first grade the first year Atkinson Elementary School opened. I was, and still am, the kind of person not to cause any fuss, and 2 times when I had to pee in first grade, I peed my pants instead of asking to go to the restroom. Finally, I asked to go to the restroom like the teacher told me to. When I got to the restroom, there were 2 second graders in there cutting up and acting out. I decided right from that time that I would be a good person and always obey the rules. I did not want to be like those second graders and act foolish. First and second grade went well enough. I had a girlfriend named Rebecca in second grade, and on Valentine's Day, I gave her a bunch of Valentines. However, there was a girl in our class that this guy would bully saying she smelled bad, and one day, unexpectedly, I called her stinky. This really hurt her feelings, and the teacher told us that we were very wrong to say terrible things to her. I still feel terrible to this day that I was so rude to her. Like I said, I wanted to be a good kid, but I made mistakes along the way. Then came 3rd grade, and I made a new friend named David, and we both sat in the front row. The first time we had an assignment, we both finished at the same time, and I thought that was cool. But after the next assignment, I could not finish as fast as him, and I caused disruption in the class. The teacher split us up and moved me to the back of the class. I had problems writing in cursive and was slow and could not finish in the time given and make my writing legible. If I wrote fast enough to finish the assignment, then my writing was so bad you could not read it. They thought about putting me in the special education class for slow students, but never did. I did, however, go to the special education class during recess. By the time I was in 4th grade, I was failing because of my bad handwriting. I could not write cursive legibly. It was like my brain went too fast for my hands to keep up. It was from when my brother lured me up on the bunk bed, and I fell knocking myself out when I was 4. The teachers thought I was stupid, and I sat in the back of the class and developed a bad attitude toward schoolwork. I would work hard writing out the assignment only to get an F on it because the teacher could not read my writing. Then in 4th grade, they gave a multiple-choice standardized IQ test. I tried hard to answer all the questions right, and I had the highest score in my class. Of course, they thought that I cheated, saying someone beside me had done well also. So, the teacher put me in a room with a dumb girl and I had to take the test again, but the girl was disruptive and we goofed off and I just filled out the multiple-choice questions without reading the test. I ended up having to go to the Galleria area in downtown to an office for special testing. My mom drove me, and she was a little late and we had to run to the appointment. I had never seen my mom run before, but we made it. A man evaluated me at this office, and I had an IQ of 141, which at the time was a low genius score. My mom ended up being the president of the Parent Teachers Association because of it, and I passed to the 5th grade with Fs on my report card. I still could not write cursive legibly and barely passed 5th grade. I had a bad attitude about it all. My parents convinced me to go to 5th grade again, but in a private school called East Haven Baptist School. When I got there, my attitude towards doing my homework changed when they used corporal punishment, hitting my hand with a ruler if I did not do my homework. So, I did my homework. I did okay at East Haven Baptist, but the curriculum was easier than in public school. I was a new kid in the school in 5th grade, and a girl named Leanna fell in love with me and wrote me a note that Leanna doused with perfume professing her love for me. The problem was that I had a girlfriend already, and being a good kid, I could not fathom cheating on my girlfriend. My parents had bought land in a place called Big Thicket Lake Estates, and I had met a girl named Kim there, and she did beauty pageants, and I had gone to one. Leanna put a curse on me because I never had a steady girlfriend again in my life. I did okay at East Haven Baptist School and passed to junior high school. Chapter 7. Big Thicket. During the summer after second grade, my parents bought 2 parcels of land on the lake at Big Thicket Lake Estates near Rye, Texas. Rye, Texas was a tiny town in East Texas about a 45-minute drive from Liberty, Texas. Big Thicket Lake Estates had sand roads that cut through thick forest and had lots for sale both on and off the small, large to a child fabricated lake. There was an earthen dam with the road on top that you had to drive over to get to the lots that were further back. There was a store and gas station at the entrance of Big Thicket Lake Estates just off the highway. It was more than a mile back down the sand roads to get to our 2 lots. At first, we had a tent that we had used camping in the past at Huntsville State Park. We set up this tent down by the lake and had 4 tarps put up around some small trees to form a makeshift outhouse. I did not like this outhouse and would hold my poop all weekend while we were there. Soon enough, we bought a 55-foot mobile home for our place, and my father put in a septic system, and we had running water that kind of smelled like rotten eggs. Everyone said it made the best iced tea. My whole family, my mom, dad, and brother, were together when we went shopping for the mobile home. And me and my brother were running around looking at the open sample homes they had for sale. The one me and my brother liked best was named the Casa del Amor, and while we were hanging around inside it, there were saloon doors going into the kitchen area, and my brother got my attention and then said, "Sidebuster," and used his hip to forcefully open the saloon doors, and one of the doors went flying off its hinge. I ran out scared, and when my brother came out, he said the door just hung on the hinge and he had put it back. We laughed and laughed about that. My parents did not buy the Casa del Amor, which was 80 feet long and settled on a green and white 55-foot long, 14-foot wide mobile home that did not have a fancy name. When we got the mobile home to our 2 lots, the mobile home was on a slope that led down to the lake. The first night we spent in it, the mobile home was not level. It made my mom seasick, and she was laying on the couch in the one living room, and me and my brother would walk by her, all crooked, and made her experience worse. My dad leveled the mobile home the next day with cinder blocks and a car jack. My dad put in a pier on the lake which had a mud bottom and then took wheelbarrows of sand from the road and dumped them off the pier to form a sand bottom swimming area just off the pier. We had a john boat with a trolling motor that we used on the lake, and my dad put in a steel cable zip line in the middle of the lot that ran down the hill. But after friends that visited kept wiping out at the bottom of it, he moved the zip line so that it ended in the lake at a wood post he had chained to a stump out in the water. We had fun on that zip line. My dad also went to the tallest oak tree on the property and threw a tire iron about 55 feet up and over a branch with a string on it and pulled a rope over and made a swing. He then built a 12-foot stand that we could climb up and swing off. We had so much fun on this swing. There was a mattress just below the front of the stand in case anyone fell. We used to see how many people we could get on the swing by jumping on with a new person every time the swing came back to the stand. The record was 5 people. Ricky, our neighbor from Kings Point whose mom was Martha, my mom's best friend, jumped out like 5 feet to get on the swing as the 5th person. My dad went on the swing, and I was going to try to jump on when he came back, but I waited until he was going away from me to jump and missed the rope, and my upper lip hit the edge of the mattress when I crashed down off the stand. It felt like my lips stretched, and I asked, "Am I dead?" after I landed at the bottom, half off the mattress. They all laughed at me for that and never let me forget it. I never tried to jump onto someone else on the swing again. Down the road, 4 lots over, were an older couple who lived in a house on pilings way off the ground. They had grandkids that would come over on weekends and stay with them. We were there every weekend, and there was a girl named Kim who became my girlfriend. Also, there was a boy my age that lived less than a mile down the road named Jerry that became my best friend. One time when my cat Misty had kittens, we brought Misty and the kittens to the lake with us. I walked the half-mile to Jerry's house, and he said he had a kitten also, and we should take his kitten to play with my kittens. So, he carried the kitten all the way to our place, and when Misty saw the kitten, she ran up to Jerry and attacked it climbing up him. We had to carry the kitten all the way back to his house. The sand roads were private property, so you could ride off-road vehicles on them. My dad said that if I could beat him at horseshoes, I could get a motorcycle, and he let me stand close to the stake, and I beat him. So he got a Suzuki Trailhopper 50cc bike for us. Then he got a Honda XR75 for my brother. My friend Jerry had a 74cc Indian, and my brother's friend Tom had a Honda 70. We would play hide and seek on motorcycles and explore the entire Lake Estate property on our motorcycles. Gas was around 32 cents a gallon, and my brother would go to the store at the front of the Lake Estates to fill up his bike. He would dump the hose into his tank and then pay like 6 cents for a tank of gas. My Suzuki Trailhopper was an automatic clutch, and I did not know how to ride my brother's Honda XR75, which was a manual clutch. So, one weekend when my brother was not there, my dad taught me to ride the Honda XR75. Then the next weekend, I asked my brother to show me how to ride it, and we went up on the road and he was holding the back of the motorcycle when I took off and surprised him. My dad said he was standing there with his mouth open in amazement. My brother would make donuts with his Honda XR75. He would put his foot down, lean the bike over and gun the throttle. This would make the bike go in a circle and make a tire print like a donut. One time the back wheel caught traction and threw him off, and he ended up sitting cross-legged a few feet away from his bike, with his track team hoodie caught on the handlebars and stretched to near breaking point. Me and Jerry both cracked up with laughter at him. We spent a good part of my childhood going to Big Thicket Lake Estates on the weekends, and it sure was fun, but by the end of the 2 days, we would be exhausted. My parents sold the place when I was about 14 years old. Chapter 8, Hot Shots. When I went to 5th grade the second time at East Haven Baptist School, they had a band 3 days a week, and I joined this class. It was either that or choir. My dad played the saxophone in high school, so I decided to follow him. My parents bought me a Selmer Bundy alto saxophone and I took it to band class with me. That is where I met Ms. Joanne Kaufman, the band director that came to teach the band. There was a 4th grader named Cameron who played alto saxophone. He had been in the school band for 4 years, and Ms. Kaufman had him take me to a private room, and he was the one who taught me how to play my saxophone. I did not know anything about it at all, and the first thing he taught me was how to put the mouthpiece on correctly. I had it upside down. He did an excellent job instructing me, and I caught on quickly. Ms. Kaufman thought I showed real promise, and within 6 weeks, she had asked me to be in her performing children's band made up of kids under 18 years of age called the Texas Hot Shots All Accordion Band and Combo. My parents were excited that I showed promise as a musician because of the tough time I had had at school and went all in on this endeavor. Ms. Kaufman had me play the bass accordion in the main band and the saxophone in the combo. The combo played a variety of instruments. The bass accordion was as big as me, and I had to crane my neck to see over it. I took lessons from Miss Kaufman on the bass accordion and saxophone lessons from her partner, whose name I forget, once a week. Then I went to band practice in the evening twice a week, and I was to practice the accordion and saxophone an hour and a half a day, 45 minutes on each instrument. This went on for about 2 months, and then Miss Kaufman sat me down and asked if it would be okay for my older brother Randy to join the band, and I absolutely had no problem with it. Also, my neighbor Arnie joined the band when he found out I was in an accordion band because he had played the accordion for 4 years. My brother began playing the bass accordion, and Ms. Kaufman moved me to the last place in the second accordion section. Arnie learned to play the trombone and was with the rest of the new members in the first accordion section. Ms. Kaufman put me in the second section because she thought I could play by ear and wanted me to learn to read music. I learned to read bass clef and treble clef during my time in the band. We all had to have the same kind of accordion. The brand was Giulietti, and they were expensive. When I played the bass accordion, I used one owned by Ms. Kaufman's conservatory, but when I went to the second accordion, my parents had to shell out $3,500 for an accordion, which, as I said before, had to be a Giulietti brand of accordion. We had to have a certain look and had to have our hair cut over our ears, and we had a variety of uniforms my parents had to buy. Like I said, this was a performing band, and we played at various German-style beer gardens around Houston and the surrounding area. We used sheet music when we practiced, but all the music we had to memorize for performances. We played at malls and private events. We went on buses to New Braunfels and played at the Wurstfest. And every year the band put on a concert at the San Jacinto Junior College Auditorium. At this concert, the 18-year-old members did solo performances backed by the band for their last year as a member because it was a children's band and you had to quit after you were older than 18. The members of the band behaved at performances, but in private were rowdy kids. There was a gathering at my parents' house, and they began to throw water balloons at cars and then got in trouble when they hit a car driven by an off-duty police officer who stopped and lectured us all. I was not throwing balloons. I was in the tree in the front yard. I also remember riding in a car with Mark, a 16-year-old, and he did not drive slower than 55 miles an hour all through the neighborhoods. I could not take my eyes off the speedometer. It reminded me of when I went to Mexico to visit my neighbor Gilbert's uncle's house, and his cousin who was older drove from the airport and was going 80 on the speedometer. I did not know that the car's speedometer was in kilometers, and we were going about 55 miles an hour. We had to do fundraising for our trips, and we had to stand on street corners all day in traffic at red lights and beg for money. I did not like this because of the rude people we met doing this. Ms. Kaufman hired a saxophone instructor that I began to take lessons from, named Gary. Gary was impressed with my tone as a kid, and it was fun taking lessons from him. Like I said, my parents were enthusiastic that I was good in band and had me also take lessons from Hal, who was an old man who was semi-famous in saxophone circles. I was in Hot Shots for about 2 years, but it got to be too much. Gary found out I was also taking lessons from Hal and was very jealous and was mad at me, and his attitude changed. With Gary, we played songs and other fun stuff, but with Hal, it was all scales I did not understand and was a real drag. Plus, Hal's conservatory was an hour drive away and I began to dread it all. I had no time to just be a lazy kid, so I quit the Texas Hot Shots. My brother stayed in, and they went to Washington, D.C. for an international accordion band competition, and the Texas Hot Shots won. But soon afterwards, 6 of the parents were talking about how Ms. Kaufman used money raised by the band to pay for a new house, and she dissolved the band just after the Washington trip, and it all ended. 5 years later, Ms. Kaufman's doctors diagnosed her with cancer and died soon after that, and the Texas Hot Shots all-accordion band ended for good. I am glad I had this experience as I learned to read and write music, which I used extensively later in my life, where I have written over 1,000 songs and posted almost 500 original songs on my YouTube channel. Chapter 9. Beverly Hills. East Haven Baptist School only went up to 5th grade, so I went back to public school after my second 5th grade class was over. Beverly Hills Intermediate School was close to my house. It was across the horse pasture that was behind my house and down Fuqua Street a little way. I would walk to school most days. Before school started my 6th grade year, as I was in the Texas Hot Shots band, I went and auditioned to get into the A or B band, which was for 7th and 8th graders. While waiting for this audition in the hallway, the coaches saw me, and one of them, Coach Morgan, asked me if I was going to play football. I told him I was auditioning for the band. From that day forward, he called me Tiger, because I was a band man. I had him as a teacher throughout intermediate and high school. I made it into the A band and was second chair alto saxophone. My best friend from kindergarten, Ben, was the first chair alto saxophone. He was not my friend anymore and was a real jerk with an attitude. I blame racism for this, as he was half Japanese and had brown skin in an all-white school. There were some Hispanic students out of thousands of white kids. I never saw it, but I am sure other kids bullied Ben. There was a summer band practice camp for the marching band 2 weeks before school started. This was the A and B band that would march during the football games, and besides the 2-week summer band camp, we had to stay after school during the first trimester to learn our performances for marching at the football games. My 6th grade year, our football team lost every game they played that season. During band camp on my first day, a guy set fire to my shirt with a magnifying glass and melted a hole in it. I had seen him playing with the magnifying glass beforehand, and then felt a sting, and his hand hitting me on the back to put the fire out. I did not have any friends in that school because all my friends from Atkinson had forgotten me, and they were a year ahead of me. My first day of class at Beverly Hills Intermediate School was surprising. I had been in a private school with 29 5th graders total in the school, and I was not accustomed to thousands of people. I got to school the first day early, and was at the door before they let us in. When the bell sounded and they let us in, I was first in a huge crowd that was walking down the hallway. There were 2 entrances that students could use to get into the school in the morning, the front entrance and the gym entrance. I was in the rush of the crowd coming in the front entrance when I saw the crowd coming my way from the gym entrance. When the 2 crowds met, it was a massive mess of people going in different directions. It was a total culture shock. I did not have any school friends at Beverly Hills Intermediate School like the other students did. There were 3 public elementary schools that fed into Beverly Hills: Atkinson, Meter, and Stutchberry Elementary, so most kids had friends from their old school. All the friends I had, which were 4, at Atkinson were a year ahead of me and had forgotten me. A boy from my street was in my homeroom. His name was Jeff, and he was too cool to really be my friend. He was in 6th grade and had a girlfriend who was in 8th grade. He was a drummer in the band and was in A band in the 6th grade like me, as he had taken lessons for years. He was a drummer in a rock band later in life, and married a Christian woman, but got a divorce because he could not keep it in his pants. He was too cool to hang out with me. You could grow your hair long at Beverly Hills Intermediate School, and most kids grew their hair long as was the style in the 70s. But I was in the Texas Hot Shots and had to keep my hair short, so I looked like a square. When I think back about my time there, I cannot remember the names of any friends I had. Yet I was a good kid, and I never skipped school, smoked cigarettes or pot, and I never got in trouble. I made B's and C's in school there and passed all my grades while there. The only class I did well in was band. I played alto saxophone in 6th grade, tenor saxophone in 7th grade, and baritone saxophone in 8th grade. By the time I got to high school, I had quit the band because I did not want to stay after school during the first trimester for marching practice. My dad said I quit because I feared the mean band director at Dobie High School named Mr. Braun, but I had taken lessons from Miss Kaufman, who was mean, so that was not the reason. Band had been my whole life for 2.5 years, and I was sick of it as my parents were overbearing with it all. It was because I was good at band and otherwise had trouble in school. In 8th grade, a guy on our street named Jack gave me his skateboard that he never used anymore, and I would go to Beverly Hills Park and ride around the edge of the basketball courts. I found a new love and rode every day of the summer after 8th grade and grew my hair as I had quit the Texas Hot Shots and no longer had to keep it short anymore. I had horrible hair in high school. Jack now has his own law firm, as he was always smart, and now he practices corporate law. Chapter 10, Summer 1978. The summer of 1978 was the first time I really had free time. I was no longer in the Texas Hot Shots and did not have to go to practice in the evenings 2 times a week, take accordion lessons from Miss Kaufman once a week, take saxophone lessons from 2 competing teachers once a week for each one, and practice an hour and a half on the accordion and saxophone every day. By that time, the Texas Hot Shots had broken up as Miss Kaufman had gotten mad at the parents who were spreading rumors about her taking money the band had made panhandling on the streets to pay for her and her partner's new house. Miss Kaufman was the first gay person I had ever been in contact with, as she was a lesbian. Although I did not know anything about gay people at the time, I would soon learn in a horrible way. I mostly spent time together with my friend Arnie that summer and rode my skateboard at the bowl, which was a cement ditch just next to Atkinson Elementary School. My birthday is July 1st, and I got a good skateboard on it that year. I rode it everywhere. I also spent time together with Arnie, and we would spend the night with each other and stay up all night, and then I would go to sleep at 10 a.m. In the morning the next day, we invented a game called Bip-de Bop and played for hours. Arnie lived 2 houses down from me on the dead end that ended in the horse pasture, so there were no cars ever going down that section of street. We would stand in the grass on either side of the street and throw a basketball at the curb at the base of each other's feet and try to get the ball to hit the curb and bounce back to the one who threw it. You could try and catch the ball and block it from bouncing back, but you had to stay in the grass until the ball hit the curb. Then you could go into the street and try and catch it before it made it to the other person, and they scored points. The point system was complex. It was 5 points if the ball hit the curb, came back to the thrower in the air, and he caught it. It was 1 point if the ball hit the curb and rolled back to the thrower. And you could steal a point if you squatted down and caught the ball as we threw it before it hit the curb. This rarely happened as we threw the ball hard. We wore out 3 basketballs playing this game as the concrete was rough on them. One day around dusk, we took a tennis ball and put rubbing alcohol on it and lit it on fire and played catch with it. We ran out of rubbing alcohol, and so Arnie got a coffee mug of gasoline and dipped the ball into it. We were too scared to hold it, so we put it on the ground and lit it on fire. It flamed up big. It was too hot to manage, so Arnie kicked it. Flames shot out of the ball as it traveled away from him and trailed fire about 3 feet long in a huge flame. We were standing there in amazement watching it bounce burning down the street when I looked down and told Arnie that his foot was on fire. He had to kick off his shoe and then step on it with his other shoe to put the fire out. Arnie would go to the Methodist church twice a week and play touch football under the direction of a youth minister named Dan. The church was just past the Beverly Hills supermarket that I used to go to as a 4-year-old, so Arnie would ride his bike. Eventually he invited me to go also, and I rode my skateboard there. Dan would put out 4 cones in the grass field behind the church to mark out a football field, and we would divide into small teams and play touch football while Dan blew a whistle. Dan had a limp and was in his 20s and would limp around blowing the whistle as we played. When it was over, I would ride my skateboard home and Arnie would stay and help Dan take in the 4 cones and the football, and then ride his bike home later. After he started going there, when we would spend the night together staying up, he started trying to play very weird games with me where I was supposed to do something to him. It was creepy, and I told him no way. I had gone to the Methodist church twice and played football by this time. The 3rd time I went, Arnie was not there, and after the playtime was over, Dan asked me if I would help him put up the cones and football, and I said yes. Inside the church was a social hall and there was a closet where they kept supplies. Dan unlocked the door, and as I was going into the closet with the cones, he grabbed my pants. This forced me into the closet and he was blocking the door. I at once said, "I have to go," and went to push past him. He grabbed my pants again in a rubbing motion and said, "Don't you want me to get you off first?" I pushed past him and ran to my skateboard and took off, and never went back and stopped hanging out with Arnie. I saw Arnie a week later and he said Dan had asked about me and why I was not going to football anymore. I never told anyone about this traumatic experience until I was in my 40s when someone was in my business about why I did not go to church. Now, whenever a man says, or I hear about a man being a youth minister, I consider him a child predator and hate him even if I do not know him. It really messed me up inside, and I still to this day hold prejudices against Christian ministers of any sort. Although I was angry at Christian ministers, I still loved Christ and just worshipped him in my own way. Today I am still this way and call myself a solitary practitioner. The rest of the summer I went and rode my skateboard at the bowl and would ride around the neighborhood at night by myself. It is a shame because I used to go to church youth events at 3 churches. There was one event at a Catholic church where we would sing and pray that I enjoyed, but Dan ruined the church for me completely. I still pray there will be a judgment day, and I can see Dan's face as his fate is to suffer in hell at the hands of God. Chapter 11. Dobie High School. I started at Dobie High School in the autumn of 1978. I no longer took band as a class, so I did not have to stay after school in March, which made me happy. As an elective, I took drama, as my brother who had graduated the year before had also taken drama class. The teacher was Mrs. Pratt during my first year, and she remembered my brother. Also, there was a senior in drama named Janine, who had been in love with my brother from the previous years. My brother and her never dated or anything. She had just had a crush on him. My brother lettered in track and field and had a Letterman school jacket, but he also lettered in drama and had a funky-looking little D on his jacket from drama. My first year, I was not in any plays, but I did work the spotlight for the school's production of the Solid Gold Cadillac. There were 3 other students that worked technical positions on that play, and I got the 4 of us Army surplus hats, as I had been collecting Army surplus items my whole life and had an extensive World War II collection. The hats I got from a surplus store were green ball caps from the Air Force, and I sewed elastic into the backs of them so they would fit any size. I walked to school every day, and for the play in which I worked spotlight, I had to walk home after dark. Usually there was a haze around the streetlights that gave them an aura that I thought was cool, and the scene in my memory became etched in my mind. I passed all my classes in 9th grade, even though I got a D in health class. My neighbor and good friend Gilbert never let me live that down. In 9th grade, I took German as a language class, and 2 older class members had Dungeons and Dragons books, and I had no idea what they were or how you played, but that would soon change. The summer after 9th grade, the twins Barry and Larry from down my street and my neighbor across the street, Jay, began to play Dungeons and Dragons so much that their parents began to complain that that was all they did. I had a fighter class that was an elf named Eric, and we really had an enjoyable time going on adventures in our minds. Then in 10th grade first trimester, I was in English class and fell in love with a girl named Ruth. I began to hang out with her as Barry and Larry were her friends from the swim team. I used to ride my skateboard at the bowl, and Ruth could ride the bowl on my skateboard also. I was head over heels in love with her, and then she brought a guy over from the swim team, and was wrestling around with him on the floor of my parents' house, and he became her boyfriend. I was devastated. I rode my skateboard around the neighborhood as fast as I could and wiped out bad and had 12 spots of road rash on my body. I climbed the tree in my front yard and cried. By the second trimester of school, I was devastated by what Ruth did to me, and I fell in love with an 11th grader in my drama class who I saw laughing at a bunch of us cutting up. She, however, did not know I existed, as she had a 12th grader boyfriend who she ended up marrying later in life. While I was in love with her, I stopped eating anything but cheese peanut butter crackers and would ride my skateboard to the other neighborhood just to go by her house. I found her address by looking her up in a phone book from the school that my brother had gotten when he was a senior. She was a freshman in it. I told myself I did not want to live without her, but after a while those feelings passed. In 10th grade, I had a friend from drama class named Mark who wore a strange hat all the time, and he told me he got it from a high school drama camp that was at the Southwest Texas State University that was in San Marcos. So, in the summer after 10th grade, me and Mark both went to the 2-week drama camp and had arranged to be roommates. The reason for the camp was so that graduate drama students could direct a high school level play for their class credit. We would put on a play in 2 weeks. Mark met a girlfriend there, and I had fallen in love with a girl that everybody fell in love with named Michelle. So, when Jerry, a guy from our high school, told me that this kind of heavy-set girl liked me in front of the counselor from the college who oversaw us, I was like, no way. The counselor from the college just thought that I was gay and started treating me like crap, like slamming the door in my face after he invited other students into his room. One day Mark and I came into our room and it was all full of trash. Later, Jerry told me that the counselor had orchestrated it and was laughing uncontrollably while filling our room with garbage. So, I was gay bashed even though I have never been gay. Mark, on the other hand, the guy that had a girlfriend at the drama camp, came out of the closet in college and even up until this day performs in drag as Conchita. I think the main reason the counselor thought I was gay was because I played a character in a French play that wore a powder wig and talked effeminate. The play, titled Two Precious Maidens Ridiculed by Molière, had in it 2 maidens that fell for the servants of the real suitors. The servants are into the powder wig fashion where they talk effeminate. I talked the whole time in that play and had to memorize 16 pages of lines, which was particularly challenging. The director, who was a cool guy that smoked clove cigarettes, said it looked like the lines hurt me as I struggled to remember them. I went to the Southwest Texas State University High School drama camp 2 more times. The next time my old friend Arnie went, and I was his son in a play, and spent the entire time mashing my shoulder into his armpit. It was horrible. I became friends with a girl named Lauren, and she fell in love with me, but I was resistant to her and just wanted to be friends. I was still in love with Michelle, who was again at the drama camp. I used to send Lauren packages and she sent me packages. My friend from 3rd grade David and I had reconnected, and we would send her stuff because we all were punk rockers. The last time I went to the camp, Lauren came with a friend. Halfway through the camp, on the first Friday, Lauren's friend started hitting on me, and she became my girlfriend. After the camp, I went to see Lauren's friend in Georgetown, and later she came to see me. Then David called for a ride. He was stuck in town and needed a ride, so me and this girl, I forget her name, went to get him, and the whole way back he talked about having sex on acid, and the girl, whose name I can't remember, did not want to have anything to do with me after that. I now know Lauren had put a curse on me by writing my name in her closet, because I could never find a girlfriend after I had gone out with her friend who had left me because of David. That girl was not much fun anyway. She was a bummer when we went out when she visited. She did not like anything we did, and in the end, she did not want anything to do with me. That was fine by me. In high school, I had failed the English class I had with Ruth in 10th grade. This became a thing. I failed every English class after that. I was 18 in the 12th grade, and I would have had to go back to high school at 19 to graduate. So, in 1982, I dropped out of high school, and a week later I had my GED, and that summer I had enrolled in college at San Jacinto South and took 2 classes. I did not do very well in them that summer of 1982.